Tepper and I talked about this a little bit earlier in the week. A lot of coaching moves around spring break. Kind of surprising.
Yeah, Friday was
usually
crazy.
Work that way.
Yeah. Luckily, I was working from home at my real job that day. So
now we've covered on the show already a lot of the moves that happened, the sort of surprising ones. But what I wanted to talk to you about are the biggest jobs that are still open, why they're attractive, why we could see some interesting names interested in them. So let's start with Mound Marcus, because this is one that just opened up with Jerry Stanford going out to Texas High. Why is this an intriguing job for coaches, and why could we see big names there?
I think part of the intrigue is Flower Mound's a great place to live. It's
Right.
a nice area. I mean, the salary is really good. They pay their coaches well. It's an excellent school. Louisville ISD is a great school system. Lots of benefits there. It's a program that has been very consistent. They've been competitive. They haven't been great every year.
Yeah.
But even in their down years, they're still fairly
Haven't
competitive.
quite gotten over the hump, but they've challenged some good teams, and they've played Allen close a couple different years. So.
And so I think the infrastructure is there. They have above average facilities. So I think it's definitely an attractive job, and I think that thought has been proven by off the record some of the names that we've been given as being interested in that job.
Yeah.
So definitely one there. I think that's one. Louisville ISD, they have two openings. Louisville High just opened up. My guess is Louisville High will stay inside of Louisville ISD.
Right.
I'll give you guys a little tease there. I think that hire will stay in-house. Maybe not in-house on the Louisville High staff, but within the district. For those of you who don't know, Louisville ISD is a 5 high school district, so I think an assistant from one of the other high schools will probably get that job. Marcus, there is a good internal candidate there, but I think some of the big names, we're talking guys that are interested in this job with
Probably surprise some people if
with
they
state
showed
title
up there.
rings. These guys have rings on their fingers, so that's always interesting to keep an eye on to see what they do there.
Yeah. Marshall is another one. That's been open for a while since Coach Harper left to be the AD at Duncanville. One, why is it taking so long? Two, why would that be a good job?
I think Marshall, quintessential East Texas town.
Right.
A
lot of tradition.
One high school town. There's talent coming up in Marshall. Marshall, fairly young this past year, played a lot of young guys. Their freshman group is one of their better groups they've had in the past 15, 20 years. We're talking a potential loaded group coming up as freshmen that are going to be sophomores next year, so you've got good classes coming. It pays well. They've recently upgraded a lot of their facilities. Their stadium still needs some work, but I think other facilities on campus are pretty nice still. So I think according to our friend David Smoke, they've narrowed that down to 3.
All right.
I think a couple of the names I've heard have kind of intrigued me.
Yeah.
Guy with Metroplex ties could be interested in it.
Yeah.
A lot of guys with East Texas ties. So I think that'll be one. They're supposed to maybe have a decision on Monday.
Yeah.
So we'll see.
We'll keep
They
an
may
eye.
be doing second round of. It's kind of a little up in the air. Are they going to do a second round of interviews on Monday, or are they going to actually just make the decision
Just
on
do
Monday?
it.
So,
Right.
I'm working the phone on that one, trying to see what we got there. But I think Marshall definitely, with the tradition and the talent they have coming up, I think it's still an attractive job, and it pays pretty well for it. The cost of living out there is a little, on the surface, it doesn't pay as much as your Metroplex jobs,
Right,
but you
it
have to
doesn't
factor
cost much
in
to live out there.
cost
Yeah.
of living. So, and for a degenerate gambler like myself, it's close to Shreveport. So. I never have any luck in Shreveport, though, man.
Well, maybe that should be your first sign.
Well,
Joe Drennan leaves Mineola for Hallsville and leaves behind what should be a very attractive job. Look, though, the biggest issue there is they're graduating a ton. They just won a state championship, and the coach who sort of led a pretty big revival there is leaving. So while I think it's an attractive job, I think there's probably a lot of pressure there, right?
Yeah, Mineola is a place that up until 3-4 years ago was, 5-5, 6-4 is a good year there. Get to the first round of the playoffs, don't really expect a whole lot.
Right.
I'd be interested to see. I need to look at this. How many playoff wins did Mineola have before that run to the state title game 3 years ago?
Right.
So I do wonder if the expectations. They graduated. I mean, that group they graduated was a special.
Yeah.
I don't want to say once in a lifetime class, but in Mineola it might be.
Right.
So I wonder if the expectations in town are going to be out of whack with what they have coming up in the pipeline, because this is not a program like Marshall's traditionally been a winner.
Right.
Mineola, not so much.
It's a little tricky. A lot of these, we've seen this with a lot of these smaller schools. Coach will come through, maybe have a good couple groups. They'll have some great success. coach leaves for a bigger job, and it doesn't come back so easily.
The talent cycles in a lot of small towns. It cycles through, and Mineola just had such a special group. And the loss got compounded because Coach Drennan took his son with him, who was a starting linebacker. So you lose all those great seniors, plus you lose a linebacker who's supposed to come back. So I'd be surprised. I would think Mineola just would stay in house and try to promote from within. That staff's been very successful. But how many of those guys are going to go to Hallsville with Coach Drennan?
Yeah, that's a good question.
Yeah,
and we won't know till we know.
And,
one that I don't want to leave out.
All right,
Edinburg Vela.
Yes, I was going to mention that.
Yeah.
That's. Talk about the last 3 years, 31-5.
Pretty good.
It's pretty salty. They've kind of taken the mantle as clearly the best team in the city of Edinburg, and amongst the best in the valley.
Yeah.
I think they're still trying to find their footing at the 6A level, but I think they went 9-2 this year. Solid first year at the 6A level. Coach Salinas leaves for Weslaco, leaves a big opening at Vela. You wonder. Valley jobs are interesting because you wonder which guys from outside of the valley are going to throw their name in the hat.
Right.
I love the Rio Grande Valley, but if you're not from there, it's a long way from home.
Yeah.
It's isolated geographically. If you've ever driven down there, once you get past Corpus Christi, there's about 3 hours of pretty much nothing, and then you're in the valley. And the valley's great, but
I won't go so far to say it's a culture shock, but it's a change too. It's a very
different pace down there.
Passionate fans, different pace, lifestyle-wise. You may feel like you come from a pretty big school in a metro area, but the crowds are all of a sudden 5 times bigger for all the games down there. It's a different thing.
Yes, it is. And if you're not used to it, you're not from there. It's a little bit of a change.
Right.
And even if you're from San Antonio, San Antonio's not that far from the valley. Yeah, it's like 4.5 hours.
It's a ways.
So you're a long way. So we think about coaches. These coaches have families.
Yep.
And the old saying, if mama ain't happy, nobody's happy. Well, if you go down there and move, and your wife is miserable down there, do you want to stay down there? You have a personal life to deal with as well. So, I do think the typical names that are down in the valley that look at jobs, the newspapers down there do a great job of getting those applicant lists out. I think we'll see a lot of guys who either are former head coaches or current head coaches in the valley. But every time we see 3 or 4 names from outside of the valley pop up, and sometimes they get the job. Coach Ricci at Harlingen South is a good example. He was a state champion coordinator, took a flyer on getting his first head coaching job in the valley, and got the Harlingen South job. So. I would imagine what would be interesting. Coach Tony Villarreal, the former Weslaco coach.
Yes.
Does not have a job at the moment.
Right.
He was rumored to be in on the Port Isabel job. Could we just see a switch there where he
swap.
just goes to Vela and Coach Salinas goes to Weslaco? That's a possibility. If there's any current or former head coaches in the Valley who look at their resumes, Coach Villarreal's is up there among the best.
Yeah. Who do we have that we feel like is better? When they look at everything and sized up. That's good. That's a good group of open jobs, and like I said earlier, if any of the big names we've heard
the domino
take these
effect.
jobs, we may have a domino effect with some other big schools. So stay tuned. Matt Stepp will have you covered there. Don't forget to follow him at Matt_Stepp, 2Ps 817 on Twitter.